Yo, what's up, guys? Wow, that was a close one, guys. Too close for comfort, but Milan find a way to get 3 points away at Cremonese, defeating them 2-0, guys. It feels really good to get some redemption on Cremonese after they beat us the first week of the season, guys. Obviously, that was the first loss we had of the season until we had the 25-game unbeaten run until we lost, obviously, to Parma last weekend. So, great to see Milan get some redemption against Cremonese. Great to see Milan get back in the win column, of course, after losing to Parma in that very frustrating 1-0 result last weekend as well, guys. So solid win today for Milan. Obviously wasn't pretty for most of the game today, especially, in the first half, the first 30 minutes, I would say. Milan was not very good, looked a little bit flat, didn't look involved in the game too much. Cremonese was pushing the pace. They were in Milan's final third majority of the first half, I would say, at least the first 30 minutes. Cremonese was pushing, they were threatening, didn't get many shots on net on Magnan, but they were creating chances, putting in crosses, getting quite a few corner kicks in the first half, but Milan, I felt, did a good job, staying cohesive, staying compact, not giving Cremonese too many high danger chances. Of course, Milan did a very good job limiting those chances, but I didn't like how Milan sat back too much, sitting back and obviously letting Cremonese dominate possession the first 30 minutes, because that's typical of Max Allegri's tactics, is let the teams create possession. It doesn't matter if they don't score, but that is a very frustrating thing to see under Max Allegri, of course. And obviously, it's a recipe for disaster, because we've seen it in the past this season where it's bitten Milan in the ass. As we saw in this game, majority of this game today was 0-0 up until the 89th minute. Anybody could have gotten a goal. It would have been a bit of luck if Cremonese scored, but you never know in Serie. We've seen it happen quite a few times this year where Milan have been leading a game comfortably or have been controlling a game comfortably, and then one wrong move and then boom, you're uncomfortable all of a sudden. But luckily enough today, that wasn't the case. But I thought Milan did start to control the game a bit more around the 35-minute mark. Milan started to push. Leao had the best chance, I felt, in the first half. Fofana puts in a great ball to Rafa, and then unfortunately Leao completely misses the net. I don't know how he misses the net there. I genuinely don't know. Probably had his head down, looked up at the last second, the ball had shot wide, and it was a very unfortunate opportunity for Milan not to get the 1-0 lead. It should have been 1-0 for Milan. Leao misses it there, and then they squander that chance. Then Pulisic had a great chance. Seeing Pulisic, this guy here, he's been really injured a lot this year, hasn't been himself, been underwhelming at times this season. Another underwhelming performance today. I felt had a really good chance as well in the first half, shoots it over the net there. It's a bit of a tip by Odero, but he could have passed it to Leao on the side there. Unfortunately, doesn't. Stays at 0-0. Fofana had a great chance as well right before the first half, guys, but as we saw, Odero makes the great save there to keep it at 0-0. Milan had ample opportunity to make it 1-0 in that first half, but unfortunately, as we saw, guys, not good enough by Milan in that first half, not burying their chances, giving Cremonese too much possession. Milan needed to be better in that second half, and I felt they were better in the second half. Of course, Modric, putting in some great balls in this game today, puts in a great ball to Rabiot. Rabiot squares it to Leao, and unfortunately, another chance is squandered there by Milan. Just a lot of chances today in this game, guys, where I say to myself, Milan have to score here. Too many times we saw where teams come back and it bites them in the ass, and luckily it's tough that didn't happen today. But again, Milan, too many times, guys, were just not bearing their chances, not having that killer instinct as we saw. And sooner or later, it was going to come back to bite them if they didn't bury a chance, But Milan were pushing. Allegri made changes. He brought in Ricci, brought in Fulcrum, took out Salamakers, who was diving a lot today, falling on the ground a lot. Really frustrating game for Alexis, I felt, guys. So not his best performance today, but Allegri made some good changes. I like the Fulcrum change, changed to a 4-3-3. I will always say that. Prefer to play that formation, of course, with Nick Fulcrum in the middle. Obviously, with Santi Jimenez coming back as well. That is great to see him going to be training next week with the first team, so that's good positive news for the team as well. But I felt Milan, guys, as soon as they brought in the other guys, started to push, change the formation. Milan started to control the game a bit. Leao started to get more involved in the game on the left side. That's where he should be playing, of course. Nkunku came in for Pulisic. But Modric, again, with these balls as well, put in a great ball to Fulcrum over the net. Should have hit the target, Nick Fulcrum. Has to hit the target there, if you ask me, guys. Needed to score there. Fortunately, squanders that chance. We saw Bartosagi pull up. Of course, that's unfortunate to see with the derby next week, not having Bartasagi next week and have a Stupin in there, recipe for disaster, if you ask me, guys, with Purvis Stupin there in the left side of the defense next week. So really going to suck to not have Bartasagi there. But then as we saw, Luka Modric again, you know, this guy here, what a player he is. Honestly, what a cross he puts in. It's Strahinja Pavlovic. Thank God it doesn't hit his arm. Hits his chest, goes into the net. Milan take the 1-0 lead. Thank God, you know, guys, because that was a dangerous situation there. If that hits anywhere near his arm, it's a no-goal. But then as we saw, Milan get the insurance goal. Great job by Fulkrug to head it forward. And Kuka and Leao on a 2-1-0. Nick Kuka with the great layoff to make it 2-0 for Milan, and they sealed the 3 points, you know. It was tight. It was tight at times, you know. Cremonese had a chance off the header there. Milan hadn't marked Luperto there. Magnan made the great save there to keep it at 0-0, and then Milan were able to get the 2 goals. It was sketchy at times in this game, guys. You know, had some, the defense I felt was solid today with De Winter and Pavlovic and Tamori. I thought they were solid today. Midfield got a little bit overran in the first half, but thought they were better in the second half. You know, Fofana wasn't horrible today as he usually is at times. I thought Ricci played well in this game today. Modric and Rabiot solid today, especially Modric again with these balls that he puts in today. What a player he is. Leao and Pulisic up top. Hated. I thought Leao was better than Pulisic today. We'll love to see a number 9 in the middle there like Fulkrug like we saw today in the second half. If Max Allegri does that for the rest of the season, Milan will get more results. That's just my opinion. I think they're better off with it. But as we've seen many times this year, guys, Milan play a back 3 with a 5-man midfield to protect the defense because they're not that good. But listen, at the end of the day, guys, you get the 3 points. You keep 7 points clear from Roma, who play Juve today, which is great as well. You know, Napoli almost dropped points yesterday. Unfortunately, they won the game at the end of the game with the Lukaku late winner. Of course, got the derby next week. Very important game next week, of course. You know, trying to win 7 in a row unbeaten against Inter. That would be great as well. Probably Bartasagi's not in that game, guys. We'll see what happens next game. We'll see who Allegri starts. You know, solid win today for Milan today, guys. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this game today, guys. Like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Forza Milan sempre, as always, guys. See you guys on the next episode of Rock Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.